All right, what is up, you beautiful people, and welcome back to the Hub Podcast, a place where you can connect with the local GTA community and where you can meet real and regular folks with ideas and experiences to share. We're just regular people trying to make it big. My name is Ivan, and my co-host and question master is my good friend Ed. This will be a very short and straightforward and straight to the point episode. We just had this idea spring into our minds, and we just couldn't wait to record it, so we just had to do it. So after Ed shared some of his favorite icebreakers that he developed and amassed over time, he challenged me to come up with some of my own. And this episode is a result of that, and Ed and I are going to work on refining this icebreaker further. We hope that by listening to this workshop, you'll be able to come up with your own unique icebreakers that suit you and your personality and the things that you know.
Okay, so last week, I challenged Ivan to come up with a unique icebreaker that tailored to his interests. So the reason for this is because Ivan felt like when using my icebreakers, he didn't resonate with the answers because it wasn't his own question. And it came off like he didn't really care about what people were saying. You know, he was telling me how he found it challenging to be genuinely curious because it wasn't his topic of choice. So I advised him to think about something that truly interests him so that he could genuinely own the question for himself. And this is what he came up with.
All right, so I think I'm just going to deliver the question to you guys first, like as it is, bare bones, and then we'll probably talk a little about my rationale, like what I was thinking when I came to design this question. So my question is it's three choices. So the first choice is you are immortal and you never age. Like you have to pick one, okay? Choice 2 is you relive the same day. You can relive the same day over and over again, kind of like in Edge of Tomorrow or in Groundhog Day. And the third choice is like when you die, you can reincarnate as a being of your choice, or like any being of your choice. So I had already asked this question around to like a few other friends. I've asked Ed this question as well. I guess we'll take a look at the answer because I just literally just asked them right now. Mm-hmm. And it has been a little bit problematic. So maybe Ed, what would you pick? Hold on.
Let me give you my immediate feedback.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So when I first heard this, I actually thought it was very easy for me to choose. I just instantly picked 3. So the rationale I gave Ivan was, okay, if I'm immortal and I never actually age, like I feel like this would almost be a living hell for me because I'm at like a year is still a year, right? Like your perception of time is still normal. Like a minute is still a minute. So I feel like if you live past 100 years even, all your loved ones would die. You'd see your mom and dad pass. You'd see your wife pass. You know, and if you live long enough, you might even see your own kids and your grandkids and so on and so on and so on. And they're all going to die. So, you know, I felt like this was an obvious choice to not want. And I think even after maybe 500, 600, 700 years, like I would just beg for death at that point.
Right, but what about number 2? What about number 2?
Okay, yeah. So you relive one day endlessly, like in Groundhog Day, or
like you could make your day perfect.
Yeah. So Groundhog Day, for the record, is one of my favorite movies. I thought that movie really was appealing at the time, but like even in that movie, the character starts to like just be sick of everything, and he tries to like commit suicide in the strangest ways possible, right? So like I don't know, like some movie nerd or whatever analyzed that movie and they determined like that the guy actually like spent thousands of years in that time loop or something crazy like that. And yeah, like similarly to the first choice, I feel like it's almost like immortality, except this time you have even less choice because it's only one single day. So for all the reasons that I said above, like this one's even less appealing because like, let's say even you could perfect this day, right? You know, every single path, every single outcome. Eventually you're going to get to a point where you just don't care anymore. Mm-hmm. And that would, again, be a living hell, and I would beg for death. So the third one, for me at least, is an easy choice because, okay, so I spend a normal lifetime and then I get to reincarnate as a being of my choice. Like, it sounds pretty sweet. Mm-hmm. You know, like, do I get to reincarnate as a human, or do I get to reincarnate as anything?
Anything.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if like in the afterlife or whatever, like we're conscious and we still retain our memories or whatever, but like it'd be pretty cool to like, you know, reincarnate as like someone famous that you know, a celebrity that you worship, a figure in history that you really idolize, like, right? Like there's just there's so much potential there. So for me, that's an easy choice. And because you're not going to live forever, you have a normal lifespan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for me, my immediate feedback is that 3 is the obvious choice, but I still think if you get people to rationalize their choices and why they don't like option 1 or why they don't like option 2, I still think this question has some merit. And like, for example, for me, it was fun to analyze each of the choices.
Yeah, but I think Ed's a bit of an anomaly in the sense that he's so curious about the choices, because everyone else I've asked this question to is like, they're like, huh? Are you serious right now? Like 1 and 2 suck, and they obviously picked 3, right?
but they also didn't like 1 or 2, right?
Yeah, they also didn't like 1 or 2.
Interesting.
But the thing is like we never got into this sort of depth of analysis of talking about it. Like we only ever like we're like, oh, 1 and 2 suck, and I'm just like, okay, but like what about, you know, don't you want to see everything? If you are immortal, you would be able to see everything that is to pass, right? I think to me that was one of the appeals of like generating that.
All right, so sorry, 1 second. Sorry.
Yeah.
Let me interrupt you for a second. So when you did try this on other people, you're saying like they never really analyzed the choices much?
Yeah, they just were like,
So, but did you follow up with questions, or did you kind of just like, shit, they're not really?
I think it's because I asked you first already. I sort of already heard all the rationalizations. I thought that would be there maybe, but I did follow up where it's like, don't you want to have like the perfect day? Or like try to figure out all the things you could do in that one day, for example, for option 2, where you could like revisit, like you could redo the day endlessly, right? So that's what I tried to do, but I think a lot of people were just like, no, but like that's just gonna be really stupid because you'll be stuck in this loop forever.
Okay,
and no one would want to do that.
All right, so immediately what I'm thinking to even improve your delivery of this is to like try to package this into like a theme.
Mm-hmm.
So my suggestion is to start with this. So, you know,
start with like a
for example, let's imagine you are on a one-on-one date with somebody, and like you can't just come out of the box and swinging with this question, right? Without context, it's a little bit random, right?
Yep.
So I guess my suggestion would be to start something like, you know, like, hey, you know, like wouldn't it be amazing if reincarnation were real? You know, like I think the idea of starting over after death is very appealing.
Right.
And, you know, for example, I've always found it difficult to choose between like these 3 options. And I've thought about these 3 options a lot. And then you could say, you know, like 1, you know, you're immortal in every age. 2, you relive one day, blah, 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 blah. 3, like when you die, you reincarnate, right? Like maybe the preamble and the context, like your lack of that might make people feel like why is he asking me this?
Right.
Like right. It seems kind of random if you don't set it up.
I have found that like because I don't set it up, it just kind of falls flat sometimes. Yeah. So, yeah. So like, could I share with you like the goal of my question? Like when I was trying to make this?
Exactly.
I did make this with some sort of goal in mind.
Yeah. Okay.
So I did want to target this to be like an open-ended question. Like the last thing I think you want to do is have a question that's like a yes or no answer.
Yeah, exactly.
That's horrendous, right? So I wanted to inspire.
Wait, hold on. So sorry for those who don't know, maybe why that's horrendous. Can you elaborate? Because I did kind of coach Ivan on this before. Yeah.
Here's an example. You walk up to some guy, like maybe like they're a photographer like Ed, and you're like, what kind of camera is that? And Ed responds,
yeah. So let's say like I say like a Canon 6D or whatever,
and then you're like, oh, cool, bro. And then what are you going to do? You don't know anything. Like, that's it. That's the end of conversation. It was a closed-ended question, right?
Yeah.
You just stare at each other awkwardly. Like,
yeah. So, you know, to further elaborate on that, like, in the first episode, I talked about good questions versus bad questions. And I feel like a bad question is when the person who asks doesn't have any follow-up, right? So once the person answers something like, how was your day today? Oh, I had a good day. I had a bad day. Well, if there's no follow-up, why did you ask that question in the first place, right? It's almost like a conversation killer at that point.
Yeah.
You know, so for example, the one that Ivan just brought up, right? Like there are people that have come up to me while I was working and they asked me what camera I'm using, but they don't really know anything about cameras. So when I do explain to them what model I use, they don't have a follow-up, right? And then I feel also kind of misled almost, because here I thought that they actually cared, but then when they don't have anything to say, I feel like, well, why'd you ask me that then? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like open-ended questions are really important, and you also need to like have some genuine curiosity. So you know, whether it's yes or no or anything else, you have an idea of where that's gonna go. Yeah.
And like, so that inspires like this sort of debate and conversation, which is like the whole point of these sort of icebreakers, is to get you guys talking and just thinking about these choices. So one of the things I really wanted to ask about with this icebreaker when I was building it was like the idea, like the theme of like death and immortality.
Okay.
It's just like it's an integral part of a human experience that like you're gonna die, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, if you could extend your life in various ways, it's like, would you, and like which ways would you choose? So I was thinking of like this idea of like this sort of infinite, almost like some sort of infinite loop in some ways, which is why number 2 and 3, they are kind of like loops. But obviously one is more appealing than another, whereas like the immortality one is literally just like you just exist forever. Also, I was thinking about like how this question, maybe I could use it to like see like what people would prefer. Like maybe I thought like if you picked the immortality one, maybe you would prefer to observe like everything that was to pass, because that to me could actually be an appealing option, in the sense that like I would just want to see everything that is going to come and is going to pass. But obviously the connotations of immortality are quite terrifying. And then like I was thinking for the constantly repeating day, it's like maybe a perfectionist would pick that, because they would try to figure out what you needed to do to have the perfect day. But then after that, it's like, that's it.
I see where you're
right?
going with this. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is almost then like you're trying to make almost like a cold reading question.
Exactly.
So depending on what they choose, you can make an assumption about them.
Yes.
Whether
yes. So
they're like
I
an
had that in
observer or a
mind too.
perfectionist.
Yeah, and then it's like,
see.
and then the last one was like, I was thinking like this could be like an explorer kind of thing, where it's like they would like to see more of what is out there.
Okay.
By being new beings.
Yeah, totally.
You know? So yeah, that's sort of what I had in mind when I was creating this. But definitely needs a little bit of help.
Well, okay, so for example, right? So your first question, I think you should prepare for the like you should almost predict that they might say, you know, oh, like if I live forever, that might not be very appealing, because you know I get to see all my loved ones die and blah 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 and all the misery associated with that. But then maybe you could come up with a follow-up question, be like, okay, well, if you don't want to live forever, how long would you like to live?
Yeah.
Right? Because I think most people would say they want to live at least till 100 years, right? Okay, well, what about 200 years?
Exactly. Where would you draw the line, right?
Yeah, like at what point maybe does you know, not immortality, but at maybe what point do they want to live, right? So like for me personally, like I think 400 years would be a sweet spot. The reason for that, I think, is because like, you know, 400 years would almost be like, I don't know, 6 lifetimes, you know,
right?
If like we're
70,
well, yeah, 70, 80 years. Well, you know, I guess nowadays life expectancy is better. Okay, so like let's say 5 lifetimes, right?
Right.
That would allow you to almost like live out like, you know, like polyamorous fantasies. You could have one wife for 80 years and have a family and then try again.
Yeah. It's like hitting refresh.
And like what age would you stay at, by the way?
For like,
for this hypothetical situation where we live for 400 years, because like you obviously don't want to be 70 years old, like, or like have a 70-year-old body for 400 years, right? Yeah. So see, like there's room here to make it interesting, right? Like you could even make this more fun and be like, okay, well, first of all, at what age would you want to stay at forever?
Right. If they do pick it, or if they don't pick it.
Apparently, I heard that most people under 18, they said that they want to be 18, and then most people over 18 say that they want to be like 25 or something.
Oh, interesting, because I was actually going to say 25 would be a
exactly,
a good range.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I think like 25, I think is like the average idea of a prime age. Like most people are at like the top, you know, of health and
Yeah.
yeah, like you're
Peak
fully
health,
grown at
peak
that
form.
point. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Like
So
you-
maybe like you could incorporate that,
right.
and then maybe you could be like, okay, well, if not immortality, at what age do you want to live till?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think, see, that's interesting because
And that might actually even get them to change their
Exactly.
choice. It'll sweeten the deal. Yeah.
exactly, because there is a lot of appeal to see things beyond your normal life expectancy, right? Like I
Yeah,
would love
yeah.
a future where they finally connect Montreal and Windsor with like a hyperloop.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
like for those that live in the GTA, like we've been thinking about high speed rail for a long time, right? But it's never gonna happen in my lifetime, probably. But
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
it'd be so cool to like be able to live 400 years and see what the future's like. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, do you see where I'm coming from? Like you gotta
Yeah.
make the question more appealing.
Right. Do some like on the ground modifications. to
Yeah,
the
you know,
answer.
especially because if you do want them to
really think about it.
No, to think about it like an observer, which is what you said is
Mhm.
if they pick one, they're more like an observer.
Mm-hmm.
Then you need to emphasize, hey, like don't think about all the death and misery that comes with seeing your loved ones die, but think
Yeah.
about all the things you could see.
Mm-hmm.
Think about all the things you could experience.
Yeah.
With 400 years, you could literally be a specialist in like 5-6 careers.
Mm-hmm.
You could be a surgeon, you could be an astronaut, you could be a lawyer, you could be a
Right.
painter, guitar, all in the same lifespan. That's very interesting too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for 2, again, it has kind of the same problems as number 1
Yeah.
because living, like I said before, it's almost like a worse scenario of 1 because it's only the same day now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And after 24 hours you got to go all the way back, right? So what I'm thinking about is like what if you like choose a moment, and I think you actually sparked this idea, but like almost
Yeah.
like a video game where you can set a checkpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So like for example, like let's say the best day of my life was like, I don't know, when I was 18 and like something great happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the best day of my life. And then like what if I set a checkpoint there, and then I can like go back and start at that checkpoint as many times as I want to like alter the outcome of my life.
Right.
So like for example, like you could set your checkpoint at 18, live all the way till 26, let's say, see what your life is like then, and if you're not happy with it, you can
Hit the
snap your
reset,
fingers
right?
and go back to 18.
Yeah.
That could be interesting too.
Right.
Because now it's, again, those perfectionist people could be like, well, shit, now I can really tweak
And plan
the
out
outcome of my
everything,
life, right?
Yeah.
Like, for example, go back to when, Bitcoin was only a couple cents.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And then live out the next 10 years, see where your life takes you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know what? Being a multi-billionaire is no fun. Okay, reset, go back in time.
Yeah.
Try something else.
Or like maybe you're on your deathbed and you're like, actually, let's go one more time.
Yeah. Or
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
hey, like, what if I ended up marrying that other girl? What would life
Yeah.
be? That's super. Actually, I really like that idea.
Yeah. See, I think yeah, that's
There's
really
like
cool.
different. Yeah, it's almost romantic in a way that you can do a do-over.
Mm.
So
So I think that would actually be a very much more appealing version of
yeah,
of 2.
I think so too. And then
Yeah.
finally 3.
I don't know if 3 needs to be modified.
See, three I think is something that a lot of like, well, maybe not all children, but I certainly imagine this too. Like when I was a kid, like what animal would I reincarnate in, right? And I think I said
Mhm.
something like a wolf or a dolphin or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting. But see, maybe okay. Sometimes when the question is almost too open-ended,
Mm-hmm.
the listener almost like doesn't know where to go.
Right.
Right? It's almost like they're in an open field and like they have 360 degrees of choice. So they almost can't make a decision because it's too open-ended.
And then they just walk
So
straight.
maybe like yeah, exactly. So like maybe the question needs to be like narrowed down a little bit to guide the person into something. You know what I mean?
Something.
So like for example, like reincarnate as a being of your choice. Well,
Animal?
Do you want them to pick an animal or do you want them to like pick a human?
Well, being is like they can pick anything that
Yeah.
is alive, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they reincarnate as a tree.
Right.
Right?
So,
Like, you know?
I mean, for me, to be honest, like, of course, I'd never pick a freaking tree. It's not even
Yeah.
sentient, right? Like, for me, I think the only being I'd want to be is another sentient thing. And as far as I know, aliens don't exist yet or haven't been discovered. So it would have to be a human being, right? Because what difference does it make if I'm not even conscious?
Right.
So for me, I think maybe I'd even workshop this and be like, yo, if you could live the life of some notable figure, who would it be?
Oh.
Like you could go back in time and be Hitler. Something ridiculous like that. You know what I mean? Like
I was gonna say like be Alexander the Great or something.
I know. There's that saying, right? That when you talk long enough, everything eventually winds back to Hitler or something.
Oh man.
But yeah. Like that could be more interesting.
Maybe that could be. Yeah.
So see, with these little tweaks, I think now your question is very hard to choose.
Right.
Because all of them actually have merits now.
Yeah. But like, would I still send it in as like the be immortal and never age, but then change it up?
Yeah. See, I think if you follow up with that part 2, it is interesting, right? Because let's say when they answer the first time,
and they're like,
they go, no, that is appealing, and they don't even think about like seeing their loved ones die.
Yeah.
And then maybe you could even remind them. You'd be like, wait, do you really want that? Like, every relationship you have, like, you'd outlive them, right? Like, these are all great conversation starters, I think.
Right.
Because even if they don't think about that, then you could bring that up and have a point of discussion, right?
Right.
Like, I'm not sure how long we've talked about this already, but like, this is pretty fun for me. Right. So like, this is actually a great question, Ivan, and I think with the right follow-ups and the right like delivery, curiosity and frame where you're coming from in the context, this could be great. So yeah, what do you think about my little revisions?
I think those definitely add a great touch to the question, and I think maybe what I gotta do is field test it and see how it goes.
I think so. I think with these new revisions, like, okay, like, for those listening right now, what do you guys think? Like, I think the new 3 versions is actually very difficult to choose. Like, I'd actually have to think about this.
Yeah, like, what would you guys choose? Like, let us know in the comment section, right? And like, I think I gotta work on the preamble. I sort of sometimes just jump the gun and go right in there. Yeah.
No, context I think is very important. Because it kind of frames the right like constraints for the listener. It kind of prepares them for what's coming. And it almost justifies why you're asking it to begin with. Because you're saying, this is an idea that I'm passionate about. I've been thinking about death and reincarnation a lot. And they go, oh, interesting. And then you follow that up, right? So see, if you ask me these new 3 choices, I think I would pick one, and I think I'd choose something like 400, 500 years.
Right.
I think forever, that's an insane amount of time. I can't even imagine 1,000 years, let alone 10,000 years.
You wouldn't pick 2?
No, because 1 could include 2, right? Like, well, no, not exactly.
I mean, I feel like 2 is truly immortality, unless you like die by some accident.
No, sure, but like think about it this way, right? Like if, like, let's say you go back to when Bitcoin was pennies, right? But at the same time, if you live till 500 years, you could literally invest like $100. Yeah. And through compound interest, after 400 years, you're probably also like a fucking billionaire.
Fair.
Right? So like the money at that point when you're 400 years old, like...
Oh, but I wasn't thinking about like money. I was thinking about like you could live out various lives.
No, exactly.
In that same way, right?
Exactly. No, 2 is also very appealing. Don't get me wrong. Like now 3 is almost...
unappealing.
The unappealing one because... Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I have no idea if it's fun to be like, Marilyn Monroe or
like some sort of historical,
or Sean Connery or like, you know what I mean? Like, or like, let's say, like, do you really want to be Elon Musk and work super hard and sleep on the factory floor? Like,
right?
I don't know. Right? Like it's hard to really imagine what it's like to live in another person's shoes. So I don't know.
So maybe now we actually do have to workshop 3.
Yeah.
Let's field test it first. And then we'll come back.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So I guess that's your new assignment, Ivan.
Yeah. All right. There it is.
Let me know how it goes.
Okay. Well, if you guys enjoyed this episode,
like and subscribe. Yeah. Oh yeah, guys, I also thought of something. Like, if you guys also want to send in an icebreaker, for a critique or an analysis or some feedback, yeah, let me know if that's something you guys want to do. Um, I love thinking about this stuff. It's always been fun for me. So yeah, I want to see what you guys come up with. All right, see you next time.